and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Andrew Harris. I'm a member of the Program Committee with the Canadian Science Policy Centre. Today, I'm very fortunate to be joined by Pamela Fralick. Previously, she was a president and CEO of the Canadian Cancer Society, and currently she is the president of Innovative Medicines Canada. Pamela, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Same here. So I know that many people who are watching this will be familiar with Canadian research excellence, but you're in a unique position. Could you please describe how Canada leads the world in the innovative pharmaceutical industry in the development of new drugs and vaccines?
Well, thank you. And we certainly are a great contributor to this global industry of innovative drugs and vaccines. Just quickly, for those who may not be familiar with Innovative Medicines Canada, we do represent 42 companies, all the major pharmaceutical and life sciences companies in this country. The contribution to the economy of this country is about $19 billion annually, so it's not to be sniffed at, I believe. There are more than 30,000 high-value jobs that are created by this industry, and 10%, just under 10% of their revenues are directed back into research and development in Canada. So obviously, with all of this activity, the objective really is to accelerate the discovery, the development, the manufacture, the delivery of treatments, diagnostics, and vaccines. That's what we're all about. So I can tell you that here in Canada alone, we don't have the exact number. It is a competitive industry, but approximately 500 products are currently in development in Canada. And beyond COVID-19, these are items that are treating cancer, infectious diseases of various kinds, all the vaccines we're talking so much about today. And what we do here in Canada helps not only Canadians, but does contribute to world health. It's the products here end up being applicable to everyone around the world. And I'll just throw in a quick mention in case anyone is wondering again about the value of this industry. We sometimes get lost in the cost, but the value can't be understated. The World Health Organization, as an example, cites that vaccines alone prevent between 2 and 3 million deaths every year, and they save millions more from developing the long-term health complications that can emerge from diseases like polio, measles, and whooping cough. So short interview, I could go on and on, but that will give you a bit of a sense of why we consider this industry to be so valuable.
Wow. Yeah, you threw out a lot of very impressive figures there. I was aware of some of the work that Innovative Medicines Canada does, but that's truly remarkable. So we all Canadians are thanking you for your hard work. And in this very strange year that we're having in 2020, I know that many Canadians and people all across the country are very eager to learn about when the next or the vaccine for COVID-19 will be available to the general public. Maybe there are multiple vaccines that are in late stages at this point. So could you please describe, some of these leading candidates for a COVID-19 vaccine, and if you anticipate any challenges in the rollout and, distribution of vaccines across the country?
Thank you for the easy question. If I had a nickel for every time someone has asked me, when's it going to be here and what's it going to look like, I'd probably be a very rich person. Let me just give a little bit of background, throw a few more statistics at you that might be of interest. And this may it will become dated very quickly, but I checked, and as of October 2nd, the WHO has reported that there are 42 candidate vaccines that are in clinical evaluation. There are 151 that are in preclinical evaluation. So this gives us hope that we're getting there sooner than later. And there's a lot more research still going on and companies working together in unimaginable ways before the pandemic to leverage all of the work they're doing to allow for that really rapid upscale of production. So the experts have hoped from the beginning of this pandemic that we could have a vaccine ready in about 12 to 18 months. And now that stands in stark comparison to the 10 years, 12, 15 years it typically takes. The best case scenario out of all of this is that, you know, one or two of these very first vaccines that enter development and complete all three phases of clinical trials might make it all the way through to regulatory approval. So the more companies that are embarking on this path and doing the research, the better, because we'll have more opportunities for success when we get to the end of this. I should jump in there with one comment because there's a lot of talk about will these vaccines be pushed, say, for political reasons and non-safe reasons. And the industry itself has declared publicly they will not be doing anything that is not safe and efficacious. The expression I like to use is that we may be cutting time, we're not cutting corners. It's just that this unusual, unprecedented collaboration allows us to do things differently than we typically would. So in Canada, a number of our companies are involved. And by the way, I'm not getting into the specifics of which vaccine is coming out. I know you did ask me that, but there are just so many different themes and variations. I can direct you and listeners to a couple of websites, ours and our international body, that keep this updated in real time. But hopefully that gives you a little sense of where we are, at least in the development. And Canada is a big player in this world as well, even though we're relatively small population-wise. So in British Columbia, one of our member companies, Amgen, is working at their plant out there in the discovery of therapeutic antibodies. You've probably heard a lot about this in the press. We have a Quebec city-based company, Medicago, that has already moved to stage 2 and 3 for clinical trials this fall. They had identified their vaccine candidate within the first 20 days of the pandemic, which is almost unheard of. In Atlanta, Canada, we have a member company, BioVectra. They're manufacturing raw materials that are being used to create diagnostic testing kits and developing additional therapeutic products. I'd also just add that there are 15 of our member companies who have just opened up their libraries of molecular compounds so that they can be used globally to get the best possible outcomes as quickly as possible. So that gives a little bit of a sense, but you also asked about challenges and what might happen. So if I can briefly speak to that, clearly having a sufficient supply of these vaccines, I think Canada has done extremely well. Our governments have really stepped to the plate and secured doses, millions and millions of doses from a number of different companies, so covering their bases. But that is still a question. Will we be able to get sufficient supply? There is a question of delivery systems themselves. Many of these vaccines require very controlled environments of cold often. Do we have the environments to get the vaccines to the people who need them? I'd mentioned uptake as well, which isn't really in the realm of my organization, but this vaccine hesitancy of the public and the misinformation that is out there that is of concern to all of us, I'm sure. But my final comment, and it's the one that'll probably take me just a minute to go into if we have that time, is the regulatory environment. For us, the industry that is the patented medicines world in Canada, the government has passed into law a new regulatory regime. That was done about a year ago, and it's set to come into play on January 1st. And this is our biggest concern. It is so extreme in terms of its implications for the industry that we are already seeing its impact. So there's been about a 45% drop in new products coming to Canada. Wow. Equally, with clinical trials coming to Canada, clinical trials often the best hope or a last hope for patients to be well or to have a quality of life. Investments in Canada have dried up as well as the global industry looks to see what Canada's doing. So, as I say, patient groups very concerned about this. It isn't just industry. I know we don't have time to go into all the details on an interview of this nature. What I would say finally is that we do have concrete proposals that we've put forward. We're seeking better opportunities to have conversations with government. We believe that there's a better and more balanced approach that will still assure fair prices, address the system sustainability issues we know we're also concerned about, but also not affect as badly the access to these innovative medicines and the investments in Canada's economy that we all want to see.
That's very encouraging. So thank you for discussing that. And the collaboration that we've seen across Canada to address this challenge has been amazing. So, something that we're all looking forward to and happy that you're at the helm leading the way in that regard.
Well, and let's hope that the collaboration continues even beyond the pandemic. That would be my wish.
Certainly, yeah. So, outside of COVID, what are some other breakthroughs that can inspire pride in Canadians?
Canada has done so much. My guess is that many of the people listening to this, those who would attend this conference, probably know even more than I do. We tend to stop at insulin, and everyone knows that the role that Canada played in developing insulin. That was almost 100 years ago. We're coming up, in fact, to the centenary of that. But on top of that, many Canadians aren't aware that we really discovered the existence of stem cells, which has led to so much advance in health delivery and all aspects of health, frankly, in the last couple of decades. There's also the Ebola vaccine. Huge Canadian part played in the development of the Ebola vaccine. There's a new vaccine that has shown great promise in preventing Alzheimer's disease. It's only been done in mice so far, but we all know that that's a precursor step. And so there's great hope that this can be translated into human trials as well. So again, many others. Again, if we have a longer time, we could go through them all, and many of the delegates here at the CSPC conference would know of those. I would make reference perhaps finally just to the comment I made earlier about knowing that there are at least around 500 products under development just in Canada as we speak. So there are many more to come.
Yeah, certainly inspiring pride in me, and something that people will be very happy to learn about. This vaccine for Alzheimer's is something I hadn't heard of. So very exciting stuff. What more? So what are the challenges in 2020 for Canada's innovative pharmaceutical sector?
Interesting. So, and maybe we should talk not just about 2020, but 2021. We're almost towards the end of the year. And perhaps I can change your word challenge into opportunities. After all, this is an innovative industry. We are solution-oriented problem solvers. We specialize in flexibility, adaptability, resilience. I would say pivoting is in our DNA. We have to acknowledge these are uncertain times, and they will continue. So the challenge, as I briefly mentioned a second ago, can we keep the momentum going? Can we keep the collaboration going? We've learned how to work together differently. Governments, across governments, industry with governments within industry, philanthropic organizations. We now know we can do things faster, bring even better medicines to Canadians and citizens of the world. Can we keep that going? So that I would see is the real question and a challenge for us. But I would have to say that all roads for us lead back to the regulatory issues that I raised a moment ago, the Patented Medicine Prices Review Board, PMPRB. It has operated in our view, in a very narrow way, not necessarily taking into account the true impacts of trying to control costs. We're lucky, one might say, in Canada. We have a regulatory body, a government body that does set ceiling prices. But when it exceeds what it was set up to do, in our view, and has an impact on Canadians getting access to the best medicines, we don't even know how this will play out with COVID-19 related medicines. So this new regime is just having a true chilling effect on what has been identified by the government as well as a real driver of the economy going forward into 2021. So opportunities, challenges, a little bit of a mixture of both.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that. It's something I hadn't really heard of. I'm not familiar too much with this field, but I love your optimistic attitude and the fact that you can look at these challenges in a positive light, and hoping that these collaborations do continue. I agree wholeheartedly. So I really appreciate your time, and I think we're near the end. So I wanted to just ask you about what your impressions are of the Canadian Science Policy Conference and what you feel are the greatest benefits of the conference and the center as a whole.
Yeah, of course. And what a great annual gathering of the minds and the voices, I would say. I'm going to sound like a broken record, I think, when I answer that question. But for me, CSPC really underlines the necessity of the diverse stakeholder sharing and collaboration. If we've learned nothing more through pandemic, if we hadn't learned it before, collaboration is key. And had we had more time, I could cite so many really exciting and mind-boggling examples of global collaboration that have taken place. So for me, CSPC is really a convener of the voices needed for the best policy decisions in Canada.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and just the ability for people to get together and share ideas, at the intersection of science and policy, it really is a special place.
Absolutely, agree wholeheartedly.
Well, thank you so much for the interview. It really was a joy to chat with you and learn more about the IMC.
Thank you for the opportunity, and let's hope it's a great conference this year, as it always is.